Hey guys, Devon VP here. Today we're going to be taking a look at how we can get the most out of our landscape shots with just a few easy tips. Let's take a look. All right, so we're at the gorgeous lot behind McDonald's, but a little bit further than that, we actually see some gorgeous snow-capped mountains. Now, I'm actually here because this is actually pretty rare here in Rancho Cucamonga. This is the Cucamonga Peak. This is rare here for Southern California in general, but we had a lot of rain, and luckily that rain cleared up before the snow did. So this is a rare opportunity for me to finally get a beautiful shot of these mountains, snow-capped, for a client that's been asking for them for like 2 years now. So I thought it'd be a good time to talk about how I do my landscape photos and take a look at few tips to help you out and make sure you get the best shot. So I have a 70D here, which is a pretty standard camera. It's an APS-C, it's a crop sensor. Canon crop sensor. And I just have a standard like 24 millimeter to 70 lens on right now. So most people have a pretty comparable lens. You might even have wider or tighter. So first step is, well, we're gonna need a tripod. You do not want to be doing this handheld if you are trying to get the sharpest, especially the way that we're going to do it. Very common mistake that a lot of photographers do when they're getting shots for their landscape and they're trying to get something real steady on a tripod, so they leave this thing on. Now, you may not notice it in camera, but I guarantee you, if you're dealing with slightly longer shutters or longer exposures, the drag that this creates when the wind breezes, it's going to create little vibrations that you wouldn't otherwise realize is actually taking away some sharpness from your photo. So we're going to take this off. And if you're curious, this is a Peak Design slide strap and real easy removal here. There's a lot of options that you can go for. Some have just simple clips, or unfortunately, if you don't have anything like that, it might be better to just go without a strap until you can get this guy on, at least for this trip. So the go-to lens that a lot of people have in mind for big, beautiful landscape shots are wide lens. People tend to want to go wider than tighter. We're actually doing it opposite. Now, wide is not a bad idea, but if we're trying to get as much detail as we possibly can, we're gonna wanna zoom in as much as we can to get as much detail and use every pixel that our camera has to offer. I believe this is I think a 24 or 21 megapixel camera. What we can do is we could zoom in and take multiple shots piece by piece, and every single portion of that landscape has 21 or whatever megapixels to use on it. And then afterwards in post, which I'm going to show you, we're going to put those photos together to make a massive picture with a lot of detail. So first things first, we're going to want to frame up here. Keep in mind, we are doing multiple shots to create one scene. So if we're trying to get as sharp as we possibly can, we're going to want to decrease the size of our...
That's a beat, don't.
Oh, that's a beat?
Yeah.
Oh, you freaked me out. It's the sunglasses, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm not taking them off.
No, you're good, you're good. Yeah.
So if we're trying to get as sharp as we possibly can, we're gonna want to change our aperture size. So we're gonna go ahead and move our aperture to something quite small, and f8's usually the standard, but you can go up to f11. Any more than that, you're gonna be getting a lot of issues of dust, sensor dust showing up as little spots in your photo, and we want to try to avoid that. So for me, I'm pretty comfortable with f8. So to get the sharpest image that we want with the least amount of distortion or noise and the highest amount of dynamic range, typically with most cameras, you're going to want to shoot at ISO 100. So we have that set up. Now all there is to do is to change our shutter speed to get the exposure that we want. Assuming we are going to be able to take this into post with Lightroom or Photoshop, you're going to want to underexpose. The reason that is because underexposing your photo is actually typically going to get a lot more data, a lot more detail to work with in the back end than you would with something that's a little bit overexposed. So also, if you are familiar with it, I highly recommend shooting in RAW. and raw uncompressed if that's an option on your camera, so you just have as much detail to work with. Keep in mind, however, when we're merging all these photos together, it's going to be a very, very large file, especially if we're shooting RAW. So if you don't have the best computer, you may want to try shooting JPEG as well, just in case that's what your computer can handle. If we're going to be keeping the landscape shot right here, we want to make sure that it fits in every single scene, from left to right, before we start taking a shot. As you can see right here, as I pan, the peak right there gets a little bit cut off. Get right there. Make sure, so I would always look for the tallest section of your landscape scene and make sure everything fits in there. And you might want to go a little bit extra too, because when we merge these photos together, it's going to crop in because there's going to be, it's not a perfect alignment. So chances are your photo is going to line this way or this way a little bit, and you're going to have to cut that excess off. So I'm going to go a little bit wider right there, and I think that's pretty good. That gives us some room on the sky, and I'm going to just pan up just a little bit. Now, keep in mind, if you're on not so level ground, you might have a bit of difficulty panning. As you can see, I'm kind of doing this down to up thing right here, and there's not much I can do about that unless I spend a lot of time trying to get my legs straight, which I'll do a little bit. Let's just test that out real quick. That's pretty straight. I think that's pretty good. We're going to stick with that. You know, I'm going to go a little bit wider just so we have a little bit more to deal with or work with. And then we'd be ready to basically take our shots now. Right there. Now, if you're dealing with a much lower light setting, if you're doing like twilight, you want to be very careful with this as well, because you're going to have a longer shutter speed. So you want to be very careful with your touches. In fact, you're probably going to want either a trigger to connect to this so you don't have to touch the shutter, or if you don't have that, works almost as well, setting a timer, just a 2 or 5 second timer. So once you press it, you can let it go, let the vibration stop, and it takes its shot. So you don't have to deal with any issues with a longer shutter. So we're gonna go ahead and pretend we're taking a shot. Oh, I can take a shot in this, right? Mid-video? Oh, I can, okay. That's a strong line, okay. And then I'm just gonna go ahead, turn it this way. And when we're taking our shots, we wanna make sure in every single shot, we see a little bit of what we saw in the previous shot. And that's so that the software knows where to merge the photos together. So right here, you can see the peak to the left, to the right there, and I'm just gonna move it over just a little bit and just kind of put it right there. A little bit in the middle. And that way, when I move it in to get it merged, it knows that it's right there. And then a little bit right there. And just ignore that suspicious car in the distance in the field that we're sharing with it. You may want to, and I've done this, shoot in a portrait mode. And this will actually allow you to get even tighter. So you can use a lot more of those megapixels to get as much detail as possible. Again, make sure you are in focus. So I'm just going to take these shots again. Bam, 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 bam. Okay, that's good enough for me. All right, we are in the office now, and for some reason I'm in a different outfit and my beard's a little longer. That's weird. All right, so we've imported some photos into Lightroom. We've taken the photos just as we explained when we were outside. Same mountains. I did take these photos at a different time a little earlier, but it was done exactly the same way. We're going to be using Lightroom to go ahead and merge these photos together to create that panorama that's going to give us a really large detailed image. So let's go ahead, take a look at what we have. Now, as you can see, I've already done some merges here, but I'm going to show you step by step. So assuming you have your photos imported into Lightroom, what you want to do is you want to select all photos from every scene that you want to merge together. For example, this guy right here is the start of one scene, and this is going to be the end. And we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 different images for this one scene. Now this is going to be a big one, and I'm working with very large raw files. from a 24 megapixel camera. So let's see how this goes. What we're gonna do, we're gonna select all of them and go and click the first one and then hold shift and click the last one. Right click on either of those and then go to stacking and group in stack. You can also hit Control or Command G to go ahead and do that automatically while you are in the library module right here. Now I did that with two other sets. We got this one right here, which was a bit closer, and then we have this one right here, which was shooting them in landscape. So once you have your scene stacked, you're gonna right click on the stack or the group of images, and you're gonna go down to Photo Merge. And we're gonna go ahead and choose Panorama. HDR is for high dynamic range, where you're merging 3 images of the same exact image or scene, just of different exposures to get a high dynamic range image. And then high HDR panorama is a process of doing panorama, which we're going to do, or what we plan to do, in combination with HDR in case you took 3 shots of every angle, and it creates a high dynamic range panorama. But for right now, we're just focusing on the panorama. And it's going to show you a preview of generally how it's going to look once the photos are merged together. And that looks pretty gosh darn good. You have a few options down here. This is auto crop. As you can see, because I wasn't a perfect pan when I took the photos, you're going to have this case where it's going to kind of go down a little bit, and you're going to have this these corners with no detail. So you can crop yourself, auto crop, doesn't matter. Either way, it's not going to be the end. You can go ahead and do that later. Same for auto settings. It's just your general auto develop settings, what Lightroom thinks is the best exposure and color tone for that image. I'm gonna stick to what we have here, and then we can go ahead and do our own edits later. Again, if you choose auto settings here, you could always change that later in the develop module. So I'm just gonna leave auto crop on, and I'm going to merge, and depending on the performance of your computer, it may take a little while, it may be very quick. These are very large images, and I have a pretty beast PC here, and it's still taking probably about 20 to 30 seconds to process these. So if you're working with a pretty old computer or a laptop, you may want to consider that when you're taking your original photos that you plan on merging together. While most computers can still handle the process, it may take a while, and even some older ones actually might not be able to handle it and could crash. Okay, so we've merged our image, and here we go right here. And let's go ahead and take a closer look at this. Now, this is not its full resolution. It's a very large file. We were originally doing 6,000 by 4,000, and now we're at 17,000 by 6,000. So this is a massive image, and Lightroom is struggling to render all the detail in its preview here. If I zoom in, bam, look at that, still having a hard time. That loading icon's gonna be there for a little while. For some reason, whenever we go into develop module, and then we zoom in, we get that detail back, and you could just see all that gorgeousness right there. You can see the details in the trees spiking up right here, and you have all of that in one image from one end of the mountains to the other, and it's gorgeous. Now, this is great if you want to get a very large print, or say you have like 3 monitors and you want to get a big wallpaper for. I think this is most ideal for printing scenarios. And then beyond that, you can even do some additional sharpening if you'd like, with Lightroom's new enhanced sharpening features with the most recent update, or move it into Photoshop and do your sharpening there. Either way you do it, whether you do the sharpening or not, you're getting far more detail with this merging panorama photo merging process than if you were to take a single shot with a wide angle lens. And this is why I wanted to show you guys this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, be sure to, tell me through that clicking of the like button. Share with anyone you might know. I appreciate the support that you have. If you're curious about what equipment that I personally use, I'll drop links down below in the description of my YouTube video, just in case you're seeing this on a different platform. I'll link all that below. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope I was helpful, and y'all have a great day.